So, why is it important to know the story of the Old Testament? Well, a lot depends really about where you're actually standing on asking that question, whether in terms of how it may be important to you. If you're standing as a worshiper, as one of the worshipers in the three major religious traditions, here's Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, then there's several reasons why it is important for you to know the story of these books. One, it is your story, or a part of it is your story, and it is a question really of religious integrity. Do you know the story that, in a sense, you've committed your life to? If if you are identifying yourself as a believer in one of these traditions, then the stories about God and about God's work in the world that are contained in these books is a part of the story that you have made a commitment to. And so it's important to know what it is that you have said you believe. It's also it is a story that reminds you what is actually important in life. Now, especially for those who are of us who are Christians, they there's sometimes a tendency to just look at the New Testament and think that's the only important thing. The Old Testament is part of the canon of the Christian Bible. And as such, we are claiming that it has an authority, and that as we read it, we seek its authority over our lives. And so there's a lot of differences between the original audience of these books and those who are today Christians reading it. And there does need to be some what we would call hermeneutical decisions about how to read these texts and seeking its authority and its application in our lives. But despite which hermeneutical approach that you would use to read the Old Testament, um, these books are reminding the audience the things that are most important for them to rely upon, to hold on to, as they are dealing with the challenges that exist. And so that's valuable for us as we face different challenges of our own. What's really important? It is also a story that challenges you to reevaluate misinformation and uncritical assumptions about God and the world that you live in. There's lots of people sharing lots of different ideas about, what God is like and what God wants and how we ought to live and how we ought to interact with each other, what values we ought to adopt. And so reading the Old Testament, reading these books, helps us to look at those other claims and then make some more critical decisions about what values are values we want to adopt, what values seem to be consistent with the values that are attached to the God who is represented in these books. And sometimes there can be a lot of uncritical assumptions about the God that's behind the Old Testament, as if the God of the Old Testament is a warrior God and the God of the New Testament is a loving God. And some of these uncritical assumptions need to be challenged. And reading the Old Testament with an understanding of their authors and their times and what's happening helps us to challenge those assumptions. So, but if you are standing in a different place, maybe you are standing as someone who doesn't belong to one of the three major religious traditions, then why is having some knowledge of the story of the Old Testament important for you? Well, one is to basically to gain cultural literacy. The vast majority of the world's population values and vocabulary is really influenced by the stories and the idioms that are found in the Old Testament. So, just simply being a person who wants to engage other people from lots of different cultures and backgrounds, to appreciate different cultures and backgrounds, to try and understand different cultures and backgrounds, knowing the Old Testament is going to help you because much of its values and much of its images come through and impact a large amount of the world's population. But also, it's to gain historical intelligence. The Old Testament is evidence of a view of the past from real people who existed, living under actual historical circumstances. And it's valuable to see these people's response to their historical situations, scenarios, and look at how they examine the world and what they claim is happening in the world, along in dialogue with other ancient texts. We can know about the different peoples that are mentioned in in the Old Testament because these peoples also have their own texts and literature. And so to begin to evaluate what it is that we have about these different people from this book and from their own book. So this dialogue is important just to become a person with some kind of historical intelligence about the past. And it can be important just to become a myth buster. There exists a lot of false information about what the Old Testament actually claims about God. And so people, sometimes even unonly people who hold the Old Testament as part of their canon, make statements that they think are founded in these books. And to know what's actually in these books, you might be able to challenge what kinds of things are being claimed. A lot depends, the importance of knowing the story depends really a lot where you would stand. So even if these books are not part of your canon, they do not function authoritatively for your life in some way. They are still valuable just to become a person who dialogues with other individuals in this world and seeks to dialogue with them with sophistication and with accurate information. So that's why it may be important to know the story of the Old Testament.